Hello and welcome to Update by Veg Economist. My name is Nadine Filko, and today I'm going to navigate you through a special episode because we're not diving into one specific issue, but we are diving into a broader view on the market. To do so, I have invited three very special guests to me because they have a broad view and are at the market for ages and bring in like in-depth knowledge. And I'm really happy to today have here Ira Van Alen, co-founder of Respect Farms and co-founder and CEO of Kind Earth Tech. We have Sebastian Joy, founder and president of Provec International, and we have Elizabeth Alfano, CEO and co-founder of VecTech Invest and podcast host. Welcome, guys. I'm so really looking forward to your insights. But before we dive into what was relevant in 2024 and will be in 2025, I want to thank our sponsor, DSM Firmenich. What is really relevant when we are talking about the market and where we're actually heading at in 2025 is to take a holistic view on the market. And this year I published a new book on food change or food system change. And to start off, I would love to share my thoughts on food change I put together in an overview. Now, it's quite overwhelming in the beginning when you take a look at the overview because, and that's what I want to actually talk about today, when we're taking a look at the food system, we have different areas we have to take into account. There are the challenges we can see here in two different stages. We have first level, we have second level, we have goals, we have, in my view, some things like planetary capitalism. We have to talk about circularity, regulatory, and we also have to take a look at the whole supply chain. And so why am I showing you this? Because I want to get a grasp of how complex the system is and why this makes it so difficult to actually talk about where we're heading at and where we're coming from. So for now, Sebastian, maybe you can share some insights on what you're actually working on at the moment and how your view of this holistic approach is and where we have to go within the supply chain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much, Nadine, for sharing that overview. Yeah, I dove a bit into it earlier, and I found it quite fascinating if you actually really look into the details. Well, yeah, so my name is Sebastian, and I'm actually wearing a couple or multiples of hats today. Well, as you mentioned, on the one hand, I'm the founding president of Provec International. We are an international food awareness organization that is really dedicated to work towards replacing 50% of all animal products with plant-based or cultivated alternatives by 2040. So we have a broad range of activities. We also do a lot of policy change, working with government to increase the R&D spending for all proteins, but also just to level the playing field when it comes to subsidies or denomination. Some people, you might have heard that several countries are fighting hard to ban certain terms for plant-based products. And another project we're working on is a protein tracker and price parity. Obviously there has been lots of discussions that alternative products shouldn't be that expensive, and that retailers also need to increase their offering of plant-based products, and that's where those kind of activities come in. I'm not going to go into all of the details, but that's on the one hand what we do as an NGO. Then obviously we have the Provec Incubator, which is basically an incubation acceleration program for startups. where we have helped over 100 startups so far. So obviously that has been very vibrant over the last 6 years, but especially the last year, we have really seen a decrease. Obviously, going together with the decrease in investments, also the number of new startups have come down, which is one of the reasons why we actually have launched a new project a couple of years ago, which is called Kickstarting for Good. And that's more of a non-profit acceleration program because we believe that it really takes a strong civil society to really move the needle forward. And that I think has been, coming to your question, Nadine, I think has been a bit neglected in the last few years. That I think there was this assessment that, the big corporations and the startups alone will really bring about these food system transformation. But as we have seen over the last few years, that is not enough. So we believe that it needs more powerful non-profit, non-governmental actors to really keep pushing the needle forward.
That's one really, really relevant issue out there. It's going on this meta level of also collaboration and how we maybe have to transform the system. Let's dive into that later on. I'm really interested on all of your thoughts on that. Ira, would you like to share some insights on what you're actually currently working on and where you're heading at or where we're heading at 2024?
Okay, in 2024, that was a weird year. So my name is Ira Vanille, and let's start by being very, very honored that to be together with Elizabeth and with Sebastian, I can be here. So hello to them, and also Nadine. I met you actually at a ProVeg event, if I'm correct. So I'm very happy that I met you there. You've been writing some amazing books. And I am also wearing different hats, Sebastian, as a person here. So foremost, of course, I started a lot of my adventures with Kind Earth Tech, which is behind me. And that is just anything that has something kinder to this planet to offer, we want to highlight. And we, in this aspect, is, of course, the amazing Olivia Fox-Caban, my dear friend, with whom I just went on this adventure. And the reason I got into this adventure is, of course, that I already I think at the age of 14, had to listen to endless conversations from my father in the field of cultivated meat. So I went to church a lot. I was not actually a practicing churchgoer at all. And that actually happened because I got involved with Just Meat and people like the people from Upstream and Nick Genovese, who really inspired me, like, okay, this is not an idea that we forgot. It is actually an idea that we are embracing, and a lot is happening. And from that point on, I must say, I just couldn't leave this field alone anymore. I just had to be part of it. And I have always been a huge fan of all the work that ProVeg has been doing in Europe. So I also want to applaud that part because I learned a lot from what was out there from ProVeg at the time. Then I I started working on a neglected field in cultivated meat, which is the connection from farmers and cultivated meat on farms. What is somehow I don't know why, well, I actually do know why, but somehow we've forgotten that the original idea of cultivated meat was how cultivated meat could be an additional business model for farmers and not at all something to replace farmers, because we need them way too much and they're way too important to be part of a successful food system. But somehow the American narrative around cultivated meat, biggest, bigger, that was predominant in cultivated meat, and that was where all the investment money went into. So anybody wanting to do something other than trying to build the best, biggest cultivated meat factory was seen as a weirdo. Well, I feel very comfortable being a weirdo, so that's why I started Respect Farms together with a farmer who actually wants to do cultivated meat, Ruud Sanders, together with a business designer, Ralph Becks, and the amazing Florentine Zaglovsky. And we are currently working with farmers, interviewing farmers, and learning from farmers what is a doable business model for them to work with, what is a doable flow for them to work with, and we are planning and hopefully will be successful in building the first proof of concept farm in 2025. So in 2024, to answer your question, we've been preparing that, we've been validating that, we've been working hard on making that a possibility. And quite frankly, that's hard because money is hard to come by. And even though we don't need loads of it, we do need some of it. So that's a challenge in 2024 still, but we're confident that we will make this happen. And then the other thing that I'm very happy about that I'm part of, that is Cellular Agriculture Netherlands. And we are proud that we got this huge support from the Dutch government for precision fermentation and cultivated meat for scale-up research and education purposes. So sadly, not for building farms, so that we have to do on our own. But CELAC Netherlands is quite successful right now. We're very, very proud that we have amongst around a group of 50 PhD MDs, professors currently working on research dedicated on these two topics. And that is solid money, and that is open source for the next 8 years. So in a world where money is scarce and longevity is hard to get, we are very, very happy that we can work on a 60 million program in together with also scaling up. Together it will be sort of an 85 million program. And I'm a member of the board. I'm one of the founders there. And on my plate is outreach. And so what I do is what I do today. And that is talk about it, understanding, learning, and being part of something that I really am passionate about.
Yeah, and we're so happy to have you here because I think network is at the basis, and it's also going to this collaboration and big view. And before we dive into this, I would like to hear from Elizabeth. What have been your insights for 2024? And can you maybe also share a bit about investments in 2024 and where we're heading at and which role money actually plays at the market?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you and throwing gobs of appreciation to Ira and Sebastian. Great to be here with you. And Nadine, thanks for having me. Wonderful to be with all the guests today. So I don't know, my name doesn't seem to show up here. I'm not a techie, so maybe Nadine can put it in if you can't see it. But I'm Elizabeth Alfano, the CEO of VegTech Invest. We focus on the public markets, and we feel that there are a lot of NGOs out there and a lot of people working on research. Of course, the whole sector doesn't have enough money and the whole sector doesn't have enough people. That's obvious. But if there was one place that was completely overlooked, it was Wall Street and the public markets. So what we do is we have a product out there, the only publicly traded fund where you can invest in the companies that are innovating to replace animals for a sustainable food system shift. Our goal is to explain to Wall Street why it makes better business to remove animals from the supply chain. And we just focus on the numbers. So we know that there are folks out there on policy and on naming and doing great work like Sebastian is doing. And we thought we better just make the business case. And so through our financial product, which anyone can invest in, those companies that are publicly traded. So the companies large enough, not the startups, the companies large enough to, at the drop of a hat, change their distribution channels to be include diversified proteins, for example, or start explaining their scopes 1, 2, and 3, where all the emissions come from up and down the supply chain. I'm sure we'll get into that. They can start pushing for better disclosures. So we realize, just how bad meat is for the environment. All these kinds of changes that we're trying to implement on Wall Street. So Wall Street, a big force. I don't believe that will change the food systems without it. So we focus there with our ETF, EATV. I'm also a consultant, so I work with a lot of multinational companies, helping them diversify their supply chains to have more proteins, not just animal proteins, but other proteins. And then I host the Plant-Based Business Hour. And the New York Stock Exchange has asked me to host their podcast on sustainable investing. So 2020, so I'm busy. 2024, very funky year, like Ira said. I think the first half of the year, we, for lack of a better expression, really saw the impact of our lack of ability to respond to the meat industry's attacks from 2022 and 2023. And we can say, its brands aren't healthy enough, or it's this or that. I don't believe that. Everyone says they want to eat healthy, and then they stand in line at McDonald's and can't wait to get their hands on more French fries. For example, when asked, do you want your hamburger with a salad or French fries? They always choose French fries. I don't believe that our products they could be better, most definitely, but I don't believe that it's because they're not healthy enough. It's because we never combated the negative campaign from the meat industry, in my opinion, in 2022 and 2023. We really felt that in the beginning of 2024. But the last half of 2024, I saw movement, particularly in my consulting practice and in my investment practice on Wall Street. I saw movement of food systems coming back into the cultural conversation about how am I going to implement climate change? How am I going to get better numbers? And Wall Street only cares about the numbers, and we only talk to them about the numbers. How am I going to get better sustainability numbers? And is there a business model here for me to wrap my mind around of diversifying my protein chains? So it was just talk and light, but it was back in the zeitgeist of interest. Now, I think 2025 is going to be an extremely pivotal year for the sector, not just because we have a bizarre, odd potential bedfellow in the new administration. Potential. I certainly didn't vote that way, but odd circumstances of late are bringing food systems front and center in the media, which is an opportunity we cannot miss. I've shared this with the Plant-Based Foods Association and GFI. I hope that we will learn from our missing of the first opportunity of our communications with the meat industry in 22 and 23, and we will get out in front and ahead of this opportunity to talk about the desperate need for food systems transformation, which we have at our fingertips right now. But 2025 is also the year that companies and countries put together their 5-year plan. That's a 5-year plan for profitability. That's a 5-year plan for their sustainability metrics. 5 years to 2030. No one's done anything on their sustainability metrics. What's the cheapest and fastest way to hit your sustainability numbers? Get rid of animals, diversify your protein chains. So I think 2025 and those 5-year plans are going to be very critical. And then we have this strange political upheaval happening. So I think you're going to start to see, I think you're going to note 2025 as the year the shift began, 26, 27 really having some momentum, but 2025 should be when we kick it off.
Politics definitely are going to change many things in 2025 and are going to be crucial, but also like doing these 5-year plans, is that even enough? I mean, most of the times having these 5-year plans, they actually take a look at the wrong metrics and do not go into sustainable metrics because it's all about making the money. So how can we actually change this view and maybe also go out of this very silo thinking and make it a bit broader to and I mean looking at the government, this could be really negative for the 5-year plans, right? You know more. You have a better grasp of that, Elizabeth, I guess. So please share your thoughts.
I think that the pressure to get to 2030 and have made measurable impact, that's on every corporation and governments as well. So I think that 5-year plans in the past aren't going to be how we're going to do 5-year plans in the future. There's enormous pressure to meet, because remember, everyone set 2030 sustainability goals. They have them written, they're public knowledge, and no one's even close to meeting them. So I think they're going to have to address this, and 2025 is when their business feet will be held to the fire, if you will.
Ira and Sebastian, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that now we're jumping to 2025, and actually I wanted to take a look at 2024 also, and maybe where we're heading at and having this broad view. Are there chances for companies? What are changing how they work? And when we take a look at that, maybe also already, are they taking collaboration and non-profit approaches into account when they're planning, when they're doing their new strategies and approaches to change the market? What are your thoughts on that?
If I
Sebastian,
can
Ira, yeah.
jump in on the collaboration part, um, when, let's say, money got scarce and people got a little bit scared because of political upheaval in the world, then everyone draws back and money got tight. I've been around so long, I'm a real old lady here. And what happens when people become scared and there's not so much money anymore? Then you have to start working together. You have to start collaborating. And one of the things that I've seen, that amazing people don't go out of the field, but look toward each other and keep on trying to stay alive with their companies, with their ideas, and collaborate more. Because for a while, especially in the world of CELAC, a lot was behind closed doors. A lot of IP was not accessible. So even though advances were made, they were not broadly available. And right now, in the collaboration of a lot of companies that have to get together, I see a lot of things happening that I'm very, very happy about. And at the same time, what I'm also very happy about is that I did see in 2024 a lot of universities actually spending money on research into this topic. So even though in, let's say, the market, it became harder, the universities took it on. And that's a different field, and it still needs to be broader. In my view, I think there needs to be way more focus, but at least there is focus. And there's focus in Denmark, there's focus in Sweden, there's focus in the UK, in the Netherlands, in America. And the other thing, what I must say, that we also had a lot of first. We had a lot of first tastings, and we have a huge first that let's not forget, Hong Kong just had cultivated meat, for instance. Hong Kong is China. Hong Kong is not just a small place, that's China, that's humongous. And a company from Australia being now in the market in Hong Kong, that's an important first. So I've seen a lot of firsts also in 24, and I've seen a lot of collaboration. And the last thing I want to say about 24 that really struck me at some of the conferences, and especially, for instance, in Maastricht, which is considered one of the most, let's say, scientific conferences in the field of CELAC, there were so many new faces. A lot of years I went to events and I got the same people, and it was like the same people all over the place. And here I was at a huge event with more and more people than the last year, and all new faces. I was not, I couldn't just say hi to everyone, and young faces in this field, full of confidence that they're going to be important in this one. So yeah, I'm very happy with the weirdness of 24. It was not one thing, a lot happened, and it was scattered, but a lot of positive things happened that we can build on in 25.
I really like your positive view on the market, and like my perception was that get the market getting bigger, and the more people there are, the less they collaborate. The more it's about making the money, the more it's about also maybe changing strategies and putting other products out there instead of those products they actually wanted to put out there, because there's are things like regulatory in their way, they can't bring them to the market. Sebastian, what's your view on this? Are we really seeing that the market is like gaining more and more companies, and that this is making it more collaborative in also, or is this in the way of being collaborative?
Well, I would say I think in the last year and also the year before, I think there was definitely a big consolidation in the market. I think because, the year before, when Beyond Meat stock markets were rising, everybody thought, oh, I also need to create a startup, that, creates alternatives to animal products, and lots of the companies were excited to introduce products. But I think then, the market did not develop as quickly as people were hoping. And then there were all these products, and some of them were even not that good. And I think obviously there was a lot of needed a lot of cleanup to be done, and market products that have left the shelves again. And yeah, so I think obviously there is consolidation. I think, like Vegan Food Group, for example, in Europe, they have been, purchasing a number of companies and trying to consolidate and, streamline the processes. But also like on another form, like we in Berlin, we just had the Smart Protein Summit, which was actually the end of a large EU project. I think it was funded, I think around like 8 or 9 million euros that Europe actually put into that project, and that consisted, I think, of 35 to 40 partners, from academia to lots of different company players, and really like to work together to move the field of alternative proteins, or smart protein as they were called, forward. And I think there's when you look at like EIT Foods, they're putting lots of money into that field, and all of their support usually hinges on different actors across country lines, across academia, research, industry, actually working together to develop that field further. And I think that a lot of more companies are interested in that field, especially as we've heard with the typical VC money drying out, or or not being as plentiful as it used to be like a few years ago. I think then people are looking like for government money, or other sectors, and they often require collaboration. So even though maybe it's not a natural tendency from profit-driven companies to collaborate, but I think that's definitely good motivation to do more of that.
So we do see more and more companies out there. We see more and more products, but we also see that there are issues we are talking about, Elizabeth, as you said, like we didn't combat some approaches from the other industry, like the meat industry, for example. Is there the danger that we kind of, and this is I took from an interview about the system all in all, that we are building this system on the same values? Like if we start and talk about combating the other side or whatever, and maybe also build on like scalability, and is there a chance of building a new system, or are we just taking this system and putting new products in there and thinking it's better for the world, but maybe it's only the same system with a different face?
Yes, we're talking about system shift. I think the days are gone when we're just going to tweak what we've got. Things like adding algae to animal feed so you can reduce methane a little bit. Like that ship sailed. You needed to do that when we had 5 billion people on the planet, not 8 billion going to 10 billion. So we're looking at system shift. Does that mean we don't have government? No, we still have government. Does that mean we're not going to have big multinational companies? No, we're still going to have big multinational companies. That's the only way you can feed the world, is you're going to have large scale distribution. But it's just going to, this is maybe cliche at this point, but just like you went from the horse and buggy to the car, you went from the landline to the cell phone, it's going to be a completely different system. And I would like to underscore here something that was said before, and maybe it was meant sort of lightheartedly, but are they just going after the money? Yes, they're going after the money. Yes. If you want fast change, make it easy and profitable for them. This is why I'm so grateful for the work that Ira and Sebastian do, because they try to level that marketplace so that making money is easy. And why drag people kicking and screaming? Just give them the carrot of you can make more money. We have some very unusual windows of opportunity here. You see beef prices, I guess speak only for the US now, skyrocketing because of droughts where herds were completely decimated. We have that window of extremely expensive beef for like the next 2 years. So what are we doing with it? Maybe I'll throw it back to Ira and Sebastian. I'm sorry, my hosting of the Plant-Based Business Hour takes over. I can't help but ask other questions. I mean, I worry that we didn't learn enough from that first bout with the meat industry, and we're just kind of going about this as a sector, as business as usual. We'll just get out there with better products. Sure, we need better products, but at some point the meat industry is not going to sit there. They're going to come back with another negative campaign, but this time against cultivated meat. So I mean, How are we thinking about like standing our ground, if at all?
Well, what I loved about what you just said, Elizabeth, is it's about the money. And people, well, they know that I want farmers to make cultivated meat, and I also want them to make precision fermentation or be part of that. Maybe that's more unlikely, but maybe they could. But also other alternative or let's say complementary proteins and diversification. I want them to be part of it. But it will never work if it will not sustain them. And what does that mean? Sustainability for farmers means, can I bring my farm into the next generation? Will it make me enough money to pay for my car, my mortgage, my kids being sent to school? And if we don't come up with solutions that will make the farmers, the agriculture sector, and even anyone in the food system any money, it's not going to work. Because then it won't change. Then it's a nice idea, but it's not going to be profitable for anyone. And profitable is also profitable for your health, profitable for animal welfare, profitable for climate change. And those should be seen also as profits. And that's the other coin of money. And that is just what costs are we hiding with the current in the current system. So when I buy a piece of meat, how much does it actually cost me? Because my taxpayers' money is going to cleaning up, let's say, the planet. And that is another thing that I saw highlighted in 2024, that, for instance, the true cost analysis system that we had at Weer Wageningen, working on what is the true cost of a piece of meat, or the true cost of cultivated meat, or the true cost of this or that product. And I think if we start educating also younger people into, okay, what is this going to actually cost you? And then talk about true price. And it's a narrative that I was aware of, and I knew about it, but it was not prevalent. And in 24, I saw it on so many places where suddenly this topic, and also like even the topic of putting a meat tax on meat, like there's also talks about a sugar tax on sugar. You saw that popping up everywhere in 24, where before you saw that less. I don't know if you agree on that, Sebastian, but I saw it on a multiple array of places.
So we're talking about, we do see, like, and that's what I actually wanted to know is, like, are we still building the same system? But if we do have a true cost accounting, if we do, put other prices on the product, we are maybe building a system kind of without making any noise about it. But would you say that the consumers are ready for this, or are we overwhelming them? Because, as Elizabeth said, they go to McDonald's and eat their burger and their French fries, and will they take a label? And then another question connected to this, and this is also, again, this complex, getting to the complex system, what other labels can we put on there? Will there be regenerative agriculture? Like, where are we heading at? Can we actually do this? Is the system we have still able to be the basis of what we need to build? Or how can this look like? Sebastian, maybe you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously almost like a philosophical question, where really what kind of change do you want? I believe we probably need, on the one hand, idealists who are really very, altruistically motivated to support a better food system. But I think if it really comes down to convincing the masses, I think it's really, price, taste, convenience, all of the usual factors just play a huge, huge role. And it doesn't even have to be that, consumers need to be actively convinced to change. There's a lot of work, like, for example, like Provich does, where it's just about making the default option the plant-based option, or working on a B2B level. Like, for example, we've been, Burger King, for example, like they at some point switched all their mayonnaise to plant-based mayonnaise, and they don't make a big deal out of it. if you just go there and you get your, as Elizabeth was saying, you get your French fries and you take them with mayonnaise, you have automatically plant-based mayonnaise. I think that's makes it much, I think that's much more realistic to really bring about big change, and especially with uncertain times ahead. Like if you see, like, the war in Ukraine and other big troubles coming out, the mental capacity for people to care about the future of the planet or everything else, if there's so many other problems that they're fighting, really is being diminished. So I think it really comes down to making the right choice, the easier choice.
Making the Elizabeth, please.
Sorry. I might be an outlier in the way I think. I just don't think change is possible. You see how complicated the food system is. You saw your graph in the beginning. There's so many layers. I just don't think you'll move this sector without enormous amounts of money and political power. And that's why we chose to focus on Wall Street. And I actually don't think it's the consumer that changes. They could change things. I don't think they're going to be the ones that change things here. GFI always says price, taste, convenience, and I just think it's price, price, price. And that comes down to really the movers and shakers who control the system, and that is lobbyists, governments, and really powerful companies like JBS. They really can kind of finagle that price. And that price comes, like Ira was saying, in two ways. That profit that you make, so that carrot, or that stick you receive by getting fines, paying more costs, bad brand awareness in the public impression on social media, etc. I sit on a lot of panels with the meat industry, the cattle industry, the swine, pork industry, chicken industry, and they'll tell you outright, like in public, uncensored. It's kind of amazing. As soon as they get subsidies from the government, they have to pay the EPA for their fines. And then they're having trouble getting labor because labor is being restricted at the border. So that means they have to pay real labor costs, not illegal labor costs. I'll let everyone figure out that subtlety for themselves. So they've got labor issues. They've got pandemic issues. I was on a panel with the chicken industry the day that avian bird flu jumped from a cow to a human. So, there's negative cost after negative cost after negative cost. And I don't want to make this too complicated, but we're also, unique window, we're in the area of AI. How does an ag-gag law exist in the area when you're in an era of AI and transparency in supply chains? I don't think you can keep these things from the consumer much longer. And that brand awareness is a huge stick.
Yeah,
definitely. I would love to talk for hours about this, like, meta level, but when I look at the clock, I know we only have 5 minutes left. So what I would love to hear from you is, what do we have to watch out for 2025? Like, there can be 3 different things. For example, this is the event, because at the moment I'm overwhelmed by events, also by web talks, everything. There's so much out there. So what do we have to watch? Where do we have to be? Which companies are going to change the market? And what is, like, the most important thing that has to change out there 2025? What do we have to tackle? Who wants to start? Sebastian.
Yeah, maybe I'll go first. Well, I think one big challenge is going to be, it seems like there's going to be more of a political right shift on not in every country, but in a number of, in a big number of countries. And I think for us as a movement to really be prepared how to speak the language, of more conservative voices, because I very much agree with Elizabeth. It's not going to be necessarily the individual consumers, but, the big decision makers, and that includes policymakers. And are we able to speak the language? For example, like in the US, it would be, okay, the competition with China. That's also something that, conservative politicians understand when it comes to supporting, all the government subsidies for research in alternative proteins, for example.
Ira, what are your thoughts, or your 3 things for 2025?
Oh, 3 things. Okay, well, let's start with one. What I'm really looking forward to, and that is a little bit of a pink elephant in the room,
And it's not me, it is actually the fact that I am aware that plant-based products have made huge strides. They are amazing. But there are products coming out of precision fermentation and cell-based that are going to optimize this. So one of the things I'm really looking forward to, and I've been talking about it a lot, is actually getting this whole idea that cultivated meat or precision fermentation products or plant-based products can't be delicious. That is one of the things that I think in 2025 will be debunked, because I am personally, I know they can be amazing, but it's not out there. But in the Netherlands, we've worked on tastings. In Europe, we're lobbying for more room for tastings. Sebastian probably knows that. There's all of this sandboxing happening. And this is one of the things where this whole idea that plant-based together with other alternatives won't be as delicious as the meat we crave, with all the problems of it. I think that is gonna change very much in 2025, because there will be more out there, more people can try it, and more people can talk about it, because before, just a small group. So that is one of my big hopes and things that I am looking forward to in 2025. I think the fact that, for instance, the UK and Switzerland is squeezing in the EU in their innovation together with EFSA and the PAS committee and their political stance there, I think in 2025 the EU will have to make up their mind. And I think we will all help them as far as we can. And my 2025 other big thing is probably we will have hopefully better storytelling around what we love, which is plant-based, precision fermentation, all of these products. So I hope in 2025 we've learned from our mission-driven mistakes from before, where our language and how we spoke about it and a little bit of the arrogance we had is hopefully is taken aback and making us a better group of people to talk about what we think is possible for the future. So I think, and Elizabeth said it in better words, and I think we mean the same, but I think we can now do a better job in advocating for what we think is possible and a good idea.
I can't wait to taste cultivated meat finally at some point. So yeah, please, I'm looking forward to the EU changing, no, not changing regulatory, but going through the process faster, and also looking for new stories. I'm actually going to work on that. Elizabeth, what are your maybe 3 things for 2025?
I'll try to be fast. Okay, we focus on Wall Street because I think our sector's so tiny and has no money and doesn't have enough people that, you know, all you need is one ad campaign from the meat industry for us and not against us, just about how sexy it is for a man to eat vegetables, and you'll have consumer perception changed. Why would they ever spend their global ad dollars on that? Because they can make money from it. So we really focus on telling Wall Street how you can make money from this sector, and you can, because the egregious supply chains, long, heavy, damaging from the meat industry. I mean, animals are awful business equations. I talk about this all the time on social media. DM me on LinkedIn if you want more details. Awful business equations. No smart business person would invest in animals. They're awful profit machines. Awful. They only exist because of subsidies. So we focus on Wall Street, and we think the big catalysts would be Wall Street. We think that every individual, I think on this chain we might have some business people, but whether you are in business or not, it is your job to get out there, because GFI and Plant-Based Business Association and Sebastian and Ira are only so big, right? So it's your job to get out there. And when you see falsification from the meat industry, when you see untruths, you have to get out there and say, like, I call BS. This, you know, everyone has to call the meat lobby out, because their misinformation campaign about us 2 years ago did tremendous damage. And it worries me that we've sort of said, okay, well, they kind of beat us on plant-based, so we'll move to the next thing then and hope we get out in front. No, they're just going to beat us again on cultivated meat and fermentation with a bad ad campaign if we don't sort of start fixing this now. So I would love to see us get in front of our ad campaign. And I have a great interview with Georges Monbiot. You probably know him, European, and he tells you, I can send a clip if you DM me on LinkedIn. He tells you exactly how to combat misinformation, and he does it. He takes on the meat lobby. He's great.
I'm really looking forward and would love to listen to that. And yeah, for today, I want to thank you guys for sharing all your thoughts. It has been quite a difficult discussion because it's a difficult issue to take a broad look on the holistic market. Next year, we're going to see each other at the 16th of January talking about V-January. And yeah, that is one campaign that can help us. And I'm really looking forward to it. Check out our issues next year, one every month. And I'm happy to see you there again. I'm happy to ask your questions to the panelists. And thank you for being here. Have a nice year and nice holidays.
Thank you so much, Nadine.
Thank you, Nadine. Bye, Ira. Bye, Sebastian. Bye, everybody. Bye. Thank you.